The seizure happened at 3 a.m., and Amanda's world shattered in that single moment. She heard the violent shaking through the thin walls of their small apartment in the outskirts of Lagos, her mother's scream cutting through the darkness like a knife. Amanda rushed into her parents' room to find her father convulsing on the bed, foam bubbling at his mouth, his eyes rolled back until only the whites showed. It was the most terrifying thing she had ever seen. "Papa, Papa," she cried, holding his thrashing body as her mother ran for their neighbor who had a car. By dawn, they were at the General Hospital in Ikja. The doctor, exhausted from what looked like an endless shift, didn't sugarcoat anything. He looked at them with tired eyes and said words that would change everything. "Brain tumor, advanced stage. It's pressing against critical areas of his brain." Amanda's mother gripped the edge of the doctor's desk so hard her knuckles turned white. "Can you operate?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. The doctor shook his head slowly. "Not here. Maybe at one of the specialist hospitals in Lekki or perhaps abroad in India. But we're talking about 15 million naira minimum, and that's just for the surgery itself." 15 million naira. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. Amanda's father was a construction worker who hadn't had steady employment in months. Her mother sold food by the roadside near their neighborhood. Their entire savings was 3,000 naira, sitting in an old tin under their bed. That night, as her father lay sedated in the hospital bed, connected to machines that beeped and hummed, Amanda made a decision that would alter the course of her life forever. She was 24 years old and unmarried, which made some people in their community whisper that she was getting too old. But she was also smart, strong, and most importantly right now. She was desperate enough to do anything. "I'm going to Lagos," she announced to her mother in the hospital corridor. "I mean to the mainland to find proper work." Her mother grabbed her hand tightly, fear flooding her eyes. "Amanda, no, you don't know anyone in those areas. It's dangerous for a young woman alone. There's a woman, Mrs. Patterson. She came to our church last year, remember? She said she helps girls find good work in the city, professional jobs with wealthy families. She gave me her card and I kept it." Her mother was quiet for a long moment, then tears began streaming down her face. "What if something happens to you? What if I lose you too?" Amanda knelt beside her father's bed, touching his burning forehead with trembling fingers. She looked at the man who had carried her on his shoulders when she was little, who had worked himself sick to send her to secondary school, who had always protected her. Now it was her turn to protect him. "What if I stay here and just watch him die, Mama?" she whispered. "What if I do nothing and he slips away because I was too afraid to try?" 3 days later, with 5,000 naira borrowed from their church community, wearing her only good dress, a blue cotton dress her father had bought her for her 18th birthday, Amanda boarded a night bus heading deeper into Lagos. She carried 3 things with her: a small bag of clothes, Mrs. Patterson's business card tucked safely in her purse, and a photograph of her parents on their wedding day, smiling like they believed the world was full of nothing but possibilities. She didn't know that in exactly 21 days, she would be sleeping in a cemetery, talking to tombstones like they were her only friends. She didn't know that in 22 days, she would drag a dying stranger from a burning car, and that single act of courage would change both their lives forever. She didn't know any of this as the bus pulled away, and her mother's figure grew smaller and smaller in the distance. Lagos at night looked like heaven from the bus window. Lights stretched endlessly in every direction, bridges glowing like golden rivers, buildings reaching toward the sky like they were trying to touch the stars. For a moment, Amanda let herself hope. Maybe this city would be different. Maybe this city would save them. But when Amanda stepped off the bus at Ojota Motor Park at 5 in the morning, heaven quickly revealed itself to be something else entirely. The chaos hit her like a physical force. Touts were everywhere, grabbing at bags, shouting destinations, pushing and pulling. Beggars tugged at her dress with desperate hands. The smell of urine and garbage was so overwhelming she had to cover her nose. She clutched her bag tightly against her chest and found a corner near a closed shop where she could catch her breath and gather her thoughts. With shaking hands, she pulled out Mrs. Patterson's card and dialed the number on her old phone. After several rings, a sleepy voice answered. "Who's this?" "Ma, this is Amanda from the church in Ikja. You visited our parish last year. You said you help girls find." "Ah, yes, the tall, light-skinned girl with the beautiful smile. You're in Lagos. I mean, you're looking for work now." "Yes, Ma, I just arrived." "Perfect timing, my dear. Absolutely perfect. Take a taxi to Maryland. I'll send you the address right now." Hey, my people, I need to pause this story for just a second because I can already feel the tension building. And I know you can too. If you're watching from anywhere in the world right now, drop a comment and let me know where you're tuning in from. And listen, if you're already hooked on Amanda's story, If you're feeling that knot in your stomach, wondering what's going to happen to this brave young woman, then hit that like button for me. Subscribe to the channel because trust me, this 6-part series is going to take you on a journey you won't forget. Now, let's get back to Amanda, because what she's about to walk into is going to test everything she believes about trust, survival, and the true cost of desperation. The house in Maryland was decent looking from the outside, a 2-story building with a small gate and flowers in the compound. Mrs. Patterson answered the door herself, wearing an expensive-looking traditional outfit. She was heavier than Amanda remembered, her face rounder, with multiple gold chains around her neck that caught the morning sunlight. "You're even prettier than I remembered," she said, walking around Amanda slowly like someone inspecting a product at the market. Yes, you'll do very well indeed." "What kind of work will I be doing, Ma?" Amanda asked. "Hospitality work, dear. You'll be a hostess at high-end events for important people. Serving drinks, greeting guests, making sure everything runs smoothly. Very professional work. The pay is excellent, 200,000 naira every month." Amanda's heart nearly burst with hope. In just 2 months, she could raise enough money for her father's initial treatment. In 6 months, she might save his life completely. "When do I start, Ma?" Mrs. Patterson smiled widely. "Tonight, actually, but first, let's get you ready. We need to make you look the part." What followed felt like a dream. Mrs. Patterson took her to an expensive salon where they fixed her hair with long, silky extensions that cost more than Amanda had ever spent on herself in her entire life. Her nails were done in elegant French tips. Her eyebrows were shaped and tinted. Then came the clothes, dresses that hugged every curve of her body, heels so high she could barely walk without wobbling. "Ma, these clothes are very tight," Amanda said uncertainly, looking at herself in the mirror and barely recognizing the woman staring back. "It's the uniform, dear. Professional appearance is very important in this line of work. The clients expect elegance and beauty." That evening, a sleek black car came to pick them up. But instead of driving to an event center or a hotel like Amanda expected, they drove to a mansion in Victoria Island. Music boomed from inside the house, so loud she could feel it vibrating in her chest. Through the windows, Amanda could see men, older men with grey hair and expensive watches, and young girls in various states of undress, dancing, laughing, sitting on laps. Amanda's stomach dropped. "Ma, what is this place?" she asked, her voice shaking. Mrs. Patterson's warm smile finally slipped, revealing something cold underneath. "Your new workplace, dear. You'll entertain the guests, be nice to them. Very nice. Some of them might want private entertainment upstairs in the rooms. The nicer you are to them, the more money you earn. Simple." Amanda stepped back, her hand reaching for the car door. "This is prostitution." "It's survival," Mrs. Patterson snapped, all pretense of kindness gone now. "You think 200,000 naira comes from serving drinks and smiling? Don't be naive, girl. This is Lagos. This is how the world works." "I won't do it, I can't." Mrs. Patterson laughed, a cold sound that had no humor in it whatsoever. "You think you have a choice now? You owe me money for the hair, the nails, the clothes, the transportation, the salon treatments. That's 150,000 naira. Pay me right now or go inside and earn it back." Amanda's blood turned to ice. She looked at the mansion, at the girls inside who had probably heard the same promises she'd heard. She thought about her father dying in that hospital bed. She thought about her mother's desperate face. But then she thought about who she was, about what her parents had taught her, about the line between survival and surrender. And Amanda ran. She bolted from the car, kicked off those impossible heels, and ran barefoot into the Lagos night. Behind her, she could hear Mrs. Patterson shouting, "You can't run forever. This city will teach you. Lagos will break you." But Amanda kept running, the expensive dress tearing on fences as she climbed over them, her feet bleeding on the rough pavement, her breath coming in desperate gasps. She ran until her lungs burned and her legs gave out, and she collapsed in an alley behind a closed market, sobbing so hard she thought her chest would crack open. She had escaped, yes, but escaped into what? Would Amanda survive the streets of Lagos, or had she just traded one nightmare for something even worse? The city's cruelty was only beginning to reveal itself, and Amanda was about to discover that sometimes, staying alive requires becoming someone you never thought you'd have to be. For 3 nights, Amanda slept at bus stops, moving every few hours whenever security guards chased her away with threats and insults. The expensive hair extensions that Mrs. Patterson had put in made her a target everywhere she went, because everyone who looked at her assumed the same thing, that she was a prostitute who had been thrown out by her client or had a fight with her madam. Men propositioned her constantly, offering money for her services. Women looked at her with disgust and clutched their husbands closer when she walked by. Nobody saw her as what she really was, a desperate daughter trying to save her dying father. By the fourth day, hunger became something Amanda had never experienced before. It wasn't just the empty feeling in her stomach anymore. That had stopped on the second day. Now it was a burning sensation that radiated through her entire body, making her weak and dizzy. Her hands shook constantly, and she could barely think straight because all her mind could focus on was food, food, food. She found herself at a garbage dump behind a fast food restaurant in Ikja, and what happened next would haunt her for years. She was fighting with stray dogs for discarded chicken bones, actually down on her hands and knees in the trash, when an old woman's voice cut through her desperation. "Child, what are you doing?" Amanda looked up, a half-eaten burger from the garbage clutched in her dirty hands, tears streaming down her face. "Surviving," she whispered, and the word tasted like ash in her mouth. The woman, who introduced herself as Mama Blessing, took pity on her in a way that nobody else in Lagos had. She lived in an abandoned building site with other homeless people, a community of the forgotten that Lagos pretended didn't exist. It wasn't much, just a corner covered with torn tarpaulin and cardboard boxes, but it was safer than the streets where anything could happen to a young woman alone. "You need work," Mama Blessing said that first night, sharing her meager portion of rice and beans with Amanda. "Can you wash clothes?" That's how Amanda became a laundry woman, going door to door in middle-class neighborhoods with a plastic basin on her head, offering to wash clothes for 500 naira per basin. Most days, she made absolutely nothing. People either had washing machines or they had house helps, and they looked at her like she was dirt on their doorstep. But occasionally, someone would take pity on her and give her work. One afternoon, after washing clothes for a particularly difficult woman who paid her only 200 naira for 5 hours of back-breaking work, Amanda used her last coins to call home from a phone booth that smelled like urine and despair. "Mama," her voice cracked just saying the word. "Amanda, thank God, we've been so worried we thought something terrible happened. Are you okay? Do you have a job? Have you been eating?" Amanda looked down at her cracked, bleeding hands from washing clothes with harsh detergent. She looked at her dirty, torn dress. She looked at the phone booth covered in graffiti and grime. She thought about the abandoned building site she now called home, about fighting dogs for garbage, about the gnawing hunger that never fully went away. "Yes, Mama," she lied, forcing brightness into her voice. "I have a very good job. I'm working for a nice family. I'm sending money very soon, I promise. Your father, Amanda, he's getting worse. The seizures are coming more frequently now, and sometimes he doesn't recognize us anymore. Yesterday he called me by his mother's name. He asked for you, baby. He keeps asking when you're coming home." Amanda pressed her forehead against the grimy glass of the phone booth, tears streaming silently down her face. "Tell him I love him, Mama. Please tell him to hold on just a little longer. Tell him I'm going to save him." She hung up and cried until she couldn't breathe, until a man banging on the phone booth door told her to get out because other people needed to use it too. The rains came early that year, and they came with a vengeance that turned the streets into rivers and the abandoned building site into a muddy swamp. Mama Blessing caught pneumonia from the cold and the damp, and Amanda held her as she coughed blood into a rag, her body shaking with fever. "Take care of yourself, child," Mama Blessing whispered on her last night, her voice barely audible. "Don't let Lagos kill your spirit, promise me." "I promise, Mama," Amanda sobbed, but the old woman was already gone, her eyes staring at nothing, her suffering finally over. The police came the next morning and scattered everyone from the building site, demolishing what little shelter they had with bulldozers and batons. They called them vagrants and criminals, chasing them like animals through the streets. Amanda ran with the others, but she had nowhere to go, no one to turn to, no safe place left in this massive, merciless city. That's when she found the cemetery in Ikoyi. Hey fam, if you're feeling this story, if Amanda's struggle is touching something deep in your heart, I need you to do me a favor right now. Hit that like button and drop a comment telling me what you would do in Amanda's situation. Would you have run from Mrs. Patterson? Would you have stayed and done what she wanted to save your father? There's no wrong answer here, because desperation makes us all consider things we never thought we would. And please, don't forget to subscribe, because the next 4 episodes are going to take you places you can't even imagine. Now, let's get back to Amanda, because what she's about to discover in that cemetery is going to be her strangest comfort in the darkest time of her life. During the day, Amanda continued washing clothes, carrying her basin through neighborhoods and begging for work. But at night, she returned to the Ikoyi cemetery, finding shelter between the grave and using tombstones as protection from the rain. It should have terrified her, sleeping among the dead, but somehow Amanda found strange comfort there. These were people who had once lived, loved, struggled, and suffered just like she was doing now. Death had made them all equal. The rich and poor lying side by side, their struggles finally over, their pain finally ended. Sometimes Amanda envied them, and that thought scared her more than sleeping among corpses ever could. One grave particularly moved her, and she found herself returning to it every night. The tombstone read, "Here lies Nathanilchambrs, 1952-019, he gave his all for others." She began talking to Nathaniel's grave like he was an old friend, telling him about her father, her struggles, her fears, her moments of despair when she wanted to give up and let the darkness swallow her whole. "Were you also someone's father?" she would whisper, sitting cross-legged in front of his tombstone. "Did your daughter also leave home to save you? Did you ever feel as hopeless as I feel right now?" 3 weeks into sleeping at the cemetery, Amanda got violently ill from eating spoiled beans she had found behind a restaurant. She vomited until she saw blood, her body shaking with fever and chills, her stomach cramping so badly she couldn't stand. For 2 days, she lay between the grave, delirious and semi-conscious, certain that she was going to die there and become just another forgotten body in the ground. She dreamed of her father during those feverish nights. In her dreams, he was healthy and strong like he used to be, standing in a bright light and reaching out his hand to her. But every time she tried to take it, he would shake his head and say, "Not yet, my daughter. Not yet, get up, keep fighting." On the 3rd day, a cemetery guard found her barely conscious among the tombstones. Instead of chasing her away like she expected, he gave her water and bread, sitting beside her while she drank with trembling hands. "You're the girl who's been washing clothes around here," he said gently. "My wife mentioned you. She said you were honest and hardworking, that you didn't steal anything even when you had the chance." His name was Mr. Joshua, and he did something that restored a tiny bit of Amanda's faith in humanity. He allowed her to sleep in the cemetery's tool shed, a tiny room with a concrete floor, but it had a roof that didn't leak and a door that locked. In exchange, she helped him clean the cemetery grounds, sweeping pathways and pulling weeds from around the grave. It was the first kindness Amanda had experienced in Lagos that came without a price attached, without expectations, without someone waiting to take advantage of her vulnerability. Mr. Joshua and his wife even invited her to their small house for dinner sometimes, feeding her real food and treating her like a human being instead of trash to be stepped over. 3 months into her Lagos nightmare, Amanda had saved exactly 23,000 naira from her washing work. It wasn't nearly enough for her father's treatment, not even close. But she sent every single naira home anyway, because at least it could buy his medications, ease his pain, give him a few more weeks or months. For Papa's medicines, she told her mother over the phone, standing in the rain because she couldn't afford the phone booth charges anymore. "Use it all for him. Don't worry about me, I'm fine." But she wasn't fine. She was barely surviving, held together by sheer willpower and the desperate hope that somehow, someday, things would get better. It was a Tuesday evening, and Amanda was walking back from a washing job in Victoria Island, exhausted and soaked from the rain. It was past 10 at night, and the road was dark except for occasional headlights from passing cars. She stayed close to the sidewalk, clutching her empty washing basin, thinking about her father and wondering if he was still alive, if he still remembered her name. Then she heard it, the terrible screech of tires losing control, the sound of metal crushing against concrete, and then an explosion that lit up the night sky like a bomb had gone off. A black Mercedes had crashed into a concrete barrier and burst into flames. Without thinking, operating purely on instinct and adrenaline, Amanda dropped her basin and ran toward the burning car. Through the thick black smoke, she could see the driver slumped over the steering wheel. Unconscious, the doors were jammed from the impact. The fire was spreading rapidly from the engine toward where the fuel tank would be, and everyone who understood cars knew what that meant. The whole vehicle was about to explode. Other people stood around with their phones out, filming the accident for social media, recording a man's death like it was entertainment. But nobody helped. Nobody moved. Nobody cared. "Somebody help me," Amanda screamed, pulling desperately at the door handle. The metal was already scorching hot, burning her palms. "Please, somebody help." Nobody came. So Amanda grabbed a rock from the roadside and smashed the back window, cutting her hands on the broken glass. The smoke was so thick she could barely breathe, barely see. Reaching through the shattered window, she unlocked the door from inside, then grabbed the unconscious man and tried to pull him out. He was heavy, complete dead weight, and Amanda was already weak from months of malnutrition. The fire was getting closer, the heat so intense it felt like her skin was melting. The hem of her dress caught fire, flames climbing up the fabric. Still, she pulled with everything she had, every ounce of strength, every desperate prayer. "Please, God," she gasped, her lungs burning from smoke inhalation. "Please give me strength. Don't let him die, not like this." With one final, desperate pull that tore something in her shoulder, Amanda dragged the man out of the car and onto the grass just as the fuel tank exploded. The force of the blast threw them both several feet, and Amanda rolled on the ground, desperately putting out the flames on her dress and in her hair. The man was badly injured, blood pouring from a head wound, his leg bent at an unnatural angle that made Amanda's stomach turn. But his chest was rising and falling. He was breathing. He was alive. "Don't die," she whispered, cradling his bloody head in her lap, pressing her bare hands against his wound to stop the bleeding. "Please don't die. Stay with me. Help is coming. Just stay with me." Who was this mysterious man that Amanda had just saved? And why did everyone around her suddenly look terrified when they saw his face? The answer would arrive with sirens and screaming, and Amanda's life was about to change in ways she couldn't possibly imagine. The ambulance arrived 20 minutes later, but those 20 minutes felt like 20 hours to Amanda. She sat on the wet grass, holding pressure on the man's head wound with her bare hands, feeling his blood, warm and sticky, covering her fingers and soaking into her already ruined dress. She talked to him the entire time, begging him to stay alive, telling him stories about her father, about home, about anything she could think of to keep herself from panicking. "You have to hold on," she whispered, watching his chest rise and fall weakly. "Someone loves you. Someone is waiting for you to come home. Don't leave them. Please don't leave them." When the paramedics finally arrived, they moved with urgent efficiency, checking his vitals and loading him onto a stretcher. One of them, a young man with kind eyes, looked at Amanda with something like awe. "You saved his life," he said quietly. "Do you know who this is?" Amanda shook her head, exhausted and trembling. "Number should I?" "That's Chief Daniel Chambers, the Daniel Chambers." The name meant absolutely nothing to Amanda. She was just glad the man was alive, glad that for once in this terrible city she had been able to do something good, something that mattered. "Is he going to be okay?" she asked. "Thanks to you he has a chance. We need to go now." Amanda watched the ambulance speed away, its sirens wailing into the night, and then she looked down at herself. Her hands were covered in blood, her dress was burned and torn, her feet were bare because she had kicked off her worn slippers while running to the accident. She was shaking uncontrollably, whether from shock or cold or exhaustion, she couldn't tell. But something inside her needed to know if he survived. She couldn't explain why it mattered so much. Maybe because in saving him, she had finally done something meaningful in Lagos. Maybe because after months of feeling powerless and worthless, she had proven that her life still had value, that she could still make a difference. So Amanda followed the ambulance on foot, walking for over an hour through the dark Lagos streets until she reached the private hospital in Lekki. It was like something from a different world, all glass and marble, with fountains in the lobby and security guards in crisp uniforms. The kind of place where people like Amanda definitely didn't belong. The receptionist took one look at her, blood-stained, burned, dirty, and her face twisted with disgust. "We don't treat indigents here. This is a private facility." "I'm not sick," Amanda said quickly. "The man from the accident, I need to know if he's..." "Are you family?" "No, but I saved his life. I pulled him from the car. I just want to know if he's okay." The receptionist's expression didn't change. "Then leave before I call security. We don't allow street people in this building." Amanda wanted to argue, wanted to explain, but she was too tired to fight. So she went outside and sat on the curb in the hospital's parking lot, pulling her knees to her chest and wrapping her burned arms around them. She would wait all night if she had to. She just needed to know. And wait she did. Amanda sat outside that hospital through the entire night, watching expensive cars come and go, watching wealthy people walk past her like she was invisible. She dozed off occasionally, her head dropping forward, but fear kept jolting her awake, fear that security would drag her away, fear that she would miss news about the man she had saved. The next morning, everything changed. A convoy of expensive cars arrived at the hospital, sleek black vehicles that looked like they cost more than Amanda would see in 10 lifetimes. Men in black suits rushed into the building, talking urgently into phones and radios. Then came reporters with cameras, police officers, more cars. Clearly, this Chief Daniel Chambers was someone incredibly important, someone whose accident was major news. A woman stepped out of a white Bentley, and Amanda's breath caught. She was elegant in a way that seemed almost impossible, wearing a pristine white dress that probably cost more than Amanda's father would earn in a year, with jewelry that sparkled in the morning sunlight. But her face was devastated, tears streaming down her cheeks, her hands shaking as 2 younger men helped her toward the hospital entrance. As the woman passed Amanda sitting on the curb, their eyes met for just a brief second. The woman's gaze held confusion, curiosity, but then she was swept inside by the crowd around her. Hours passed, the sun climbed higher, beating down mercilessly. Amanda was hungry, thirsty, exhausted. But she couldn't make herself leave, not yet, not until she knew. Finally, a security guard approached her, not to chase her away, but with something different in his expression. "You," he said, not unkindly. "The family wants to see you. They've been looking for you all morning." Amanda was led through the pristine hospital corridors, acutely aware of how she must look, burned, bloody, dirty among all this gleaming cleanliness. She was taken to a private waiting room where the elegant woman in white stood talking with the two younger men. They all turned when Amanda entered. "You're the one who saved my husband?" the woman asked, her voice breaking. Amanda nodded, suddenly nervous. "Yes, ma'am. I was just walking by when the accident happened and I couldn't just leave him there." The woman broke down completely, closing the distance between them and embracing Amanda tightly despite her filthy state. "The doctors said if you hadn't pulled him out when you did, he would have died. The smoke, the fire, another minute and the explosion would have killed him. You saved his life. You saved him." "Is he going to be okay?" Amanda asked, her own eyes filling with tears. "He's in a coma. They're not sure when or if he'll wake up, but he's alive. Because of you, he's alive." One of the younger men stepped forward, tall and handsome with his father's strong features. "I'm David, his son. This is my mother, Helen, and my brother, James. Fam, if you're feeling this moment right now, if your heart is racing wondering what's about to happen next, then do me a favor and smash that like button. Drop a comment telling me if you think Amanda's luck is finally changing or if there's another twist coming. And listen, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? This story is just getting started, and trust me, you don't want to miss what happens in the next 3 episodes. Now let's get back to this moment, because James is about to say something that's going to cut deep. James was studying Amanda with obvious suspicion, his eyes narrowed and calculating. "Why did you do it? What do you want from us?" "James," his mother scolded sharply. "I'm just asking what everyone's thinking, Mum. Nobody does something for nothing in Lagos. Everybody wants something. So what is it? Money, a reward, what's your angle?" Amanda met his gaze steadily, despite how small and dirty she felt standing in that expensive waiting room. "I did it because it was the right thing to do. Because a human being was dying and I couldn't just stand there and watch. I don't want anything from you." "Everyone wants something." "Then I want your father to wake up and go home to his family," Amanda said quietly. "That's all, that's everything." She turned to leave, feeling foolish now for staying, for caring, for thinking her presence here mattered at all. But Helen grabbed her hand, stopping her. "Wait, please, at least tell us your name." "Amanda." "Amanda, where do you live? How can we reach you to give you updates about my husband? You saved his life, you deserve to know how he's doing." Amanda hesitated, shame flooding through her. "Around," she finally said. David had been watching her carefully, and now his expression shifted to understanding. He noticed her burned dress, her wounded hands, the exhaustion in her eyes that went deeper than one sleepless night. "You're homeless, aren't you?" he asked gently. Amanda's silence was answer enough. She wanted to lie, wanted to maintain some dignity, but what was the point? Anyone who looked at her could see the truth written all over her. Helen Chambers didn't hesitate. "You're staying here at the hospital. Right now. We have private rooms for family members. You saved my husband. The least I can do is treat your wounds properly and make sure you have somewhere safe to sleep." "Ma'am, I couldn't possibly." "I insist," Helen said firmly, "and I don't take no for an answer." The burns on Amanda's legs were worse than she had realized. The doctor who examined her said they were second-degree burns that could have gotten infected if left untreated. Her hands needed stitches from the glass that had embedded in her palms when she broke the car window. They cleaned her wounds, bandaged her properly, gave her antibiotics and pain medication. While she was being treated, Helen sat with her, and something about the woman's maternal warmth broke down all of Amanda's carefully constructed walls. She found herself telling Helen everything: her dying father, the brain tumor they couldn't afford to treat, Mrs. Patterson's betrayal and the false promises that brought her to Lagos, the 3 months of sleeping in a cemetery and washing clothes for survival. Helen wept openly as she listened, holding Amanda's bandaged hand in both of hers. "My God, child, you've been through absolute hell." "I'm still going through it, ma'am," Amanda said quietly, honestly. "Every single day is hell." That night, Helen arranged for Amanda to sleep in a private room at the hospital, a real bed with clean sheets, air conditioning, a bathroom with hot water. Amanda took her first hot shower in 3 months, watching the water run brown with dirt and blood as it circled the drain. She stood under that water until it ran cold, crying for everything she had lost and everything she had endured. But she couldn't sleep. The bed was too soft, too comfortable, too unreal. After months on concrete floors and dirt, it felt wrong somehow, like she was pretending to be someone she wasn't anymore. So Amanda wandered through the quiet hospital corridors until she found herself outside Chief Daniel Chambers' room. Through the glass door, she could see him surrounded by machines and monitors, tubes and wires connecting him to life. She entered quietly, pulled a chair beside his bed and sat down. "I don't know if you can hear me," she whispered, looking at his still face. "But I want you to know that your family loves you desperately. Your wife hasn't stopped crying since she arrived. Your sons are trying to be strong for her, but they're terrified. You need to wake up for them, they need you." And then she began talking to him the way she used to talk to Nathaniel's grave in the cemetery, telling him about her father, about her journey to Lagos, about the strange series of events that had brought her to his bedside. "Maybe this is why I came to Lagos," she said softly. "Not to make money or save my father, but to save your life. Maybe that's enough. Maybe that's my purpose." What Amanda didn't know was that the monitors were registering subtle changes in Chief Chambers' vital signs. His heart rate shifted slightly when she spoke. His brain activity increased in ways the nurses would notice during their rounds. Somewhere deep in his coma, Daniel Chambers was hearing every word. David found Amanda there in the morning, asleep in the chair with her bandaged hand, still holding his father's hand. He stood in the doorway for a long moment, watching this homeless girl who had risked her life for a stranger, and something in his chest tightened with emotion he couldn't quite name. For 5 days, Amanda stayed at the hospital and Helen Chambers wouldn't let her leave. "You're part of this now," she insisted. "Part of our family's miracle, part of our story." James remained suspicious, occasionally making comments about opportunists and gold diggers. But David was different. He brought Amanda food, fresh clothes that his mother had bought for her, even a new phone so she could call home and let her family know she was safe. When Amanda finally called her mother with that new phone, standing on the hospital balcony with tears streaming down her face, everything she had been holding inside came pouring out. "Mama, I'm so sorry. I failed you. I failed Papa. I don't have the money for his treatment. I tried so hard, Mama. I tried everything but Lagos broke me. Come home, baby," her mother sobbed on the other end of the line. "Just come home. We'll figure something else out. I can't lose you too." "How is Papa?" Amanda asked, even though she was terrified of the answer. The silence that followed told her everything she needed to know before her mother even spoke. "He can't talk anymore, Amanda. The tumor has affected his speech. He just lies there looking at your photograph. The doctor says it's weeks now, maybe days. Oh God, Amanda, I'm going to lose him and there's nothing I can do." Amanda sobbed so hard that David, who had come to bring her lunch, dropped the tray and rushed to her side. He held her awkwardly while she cried, this stranger who had saved his father now breaking apart in his arms, and he felt helpless to stop her pain. That night, something extraordinary happened that nobody could have predicted. Would Chief Daniel Chambers ever wake up? Or was Amanda about to lose the one good thing that had happened to her in Lagos? The answer was coming, and it would change everything Amanda thought she knew about fate, purpose, and the mysterious ways that lives intersect. Amanda was sitting beside Chief Daniel Chambers' bed at 2 in the morning, unable to sleep despite the comfortable room Helen had given her. She had been talking to him for over an hour, the way she did every night when the hospital was quiet, and nobody was around to hear her. Tonight, she was telling him about her father, about the man who had carried her on his shoulders through their neighborhood when she was little, who had taught her to be brave and kind and honest even when the world made those things difficult. "He's dying and I can't save him," she whispered, tears streaming down her face in the dim light of the hospital room. "I saved you, a complete stranger, but I can't save my own father. How is that fair? How is that God's plan? What kind of cruel joke is the universe playing on me?" She put her head down on the edge of his bed, exhausted and heartbroken, not expecting anything to change because nothing ever changed. Nothing ever got better. Every small victory was followed by devastating loss. Then she felt it, a hand touching hers, warm and very much alive. Amanda's head shot up so fast she almost fell out of her chair. Chief Daniel Chambers' eyes were open, looking directly at her with a clarity that took her breath away. "Because," he whispered, his voice hoarse from days of not speaking, "you were meant to save me so I could save him." Amanda screamed. She didn't mean to, but the shock of it ripped the sound from her throat. Within seconds, nurses rushed into the room, their shoes squeaking on the polished floor. Helen burst through the door still in her nightgown, David and James right behind her. The quiet hospital room erupted into controlled chaos as medical staff swarmed around the bed, checking vitals, shining lights in his eyes, asking him questions. But Chief Chambers' eyes never left Amanda's face. Even with all the commotion around him, doctors and nurses and his own family, he kept looking at her with an intensity that made her feel like she was the only person in the room. "You," he said, his voice getting stronger with each word. "You pulled me from the fire. I remember your voice telling me not to die." "Yes," Amanda whispered, barely able to speak through her tears. "Yes, that was me. I heard you, every word. Even when I couldn't respond, I heard everything you said." The doctors wanted to examine him thoroughly, run tests, make sure the coma hadn't caused any lasting damage. But Daniel Chambers was a man who was used to being in control, and even after nearly dying, that hadn't changed. He insisted Amanda stay in the room, insisted she be there while he talked to his family, because as he said, she's part of this story. She deserves to be here for all of it. Chief Daniel Chambers was not just wealthy, he was one of the richest men in Africa, though Amanda didn't understand the full scope of that yet. He owned tech companies, real estate developments, shopping malls and hospitals across Nigeria and beyond. His net worth was measured in billions, not millions. People flew from other countries just to have meetings with him. His name opened doors that most people didn't even know existed. But none of that had mattered when he was unconscious in a burning car on a dark Lagos road, with flames getting closer and death seconds away. "I saw everything," he told his family later that morning, with Amanda sitting quietly in the corner. "I know people say that near-death experiences are just the brain shutting down, but I'm telling you, I was outside my body. I was floating above the accident, watching this girl, this stranger, risk her life to save mine." He looked at Amanda. "I saw your dress catch fire. I saw you refuse to let go even when the flames got closer and everyone else just stood there filming with their phones. I saw you cry when you thought I was dying. I saw everything." James shifted uncomfortably. "Dad, you were hallucinating from the trauma and lack of oxygen." "No, son, I was more awake than I've ever been in my entire life." Daniel turned back to Amanda. "Tell me something. Why did you do it? You were obviously struggling, homeless, hungry, desperate. Why risk your life for a stranger when you had your own problems to worry about?" Amanda thought about how to answer, about all the complicated feelings swirling inside her. "Because a life is a life, sir. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, if I know you or don't know you. Every human being matters. That's what my parents taught me, and it's the one thing Lagos hasn't been able to take away from me." The room was completely silent. Helen was crying openly. David was staring at Amanda like he was seeing her for the first time. Even James looked moved, though he tried to hide it. Daniel Chambers was quiet for a long moment, his eyes never leaving Amanda's face. Then he said 5 words that would change everything. "Bring her father to Lagos." Amanda's heart stopped. "What?" "My private jet will fly to collect your father tomorrow. We'll bring him to my hospital, the one I own in Victoria Island, not this one. My neurosurgeons will operate on him. Everything will be covered, every single expense." Amanda fell to her knees, her body shaking so violently she couldn't stand. "Sir, I can't. This is too much. I don't deserve." "You gave me back my life," Daniel said firmly. "Let me give your father back his. It's the least I can do." But that wasn't all. Helen came over and knelt beside Amanda, pulling out a newspaper that had been lying on the side table. The headline read, "Mystery Woman SAVES Billionaire from Burning Car." Below it was a grainy photo captured by one of the people filming the accident. It showed Amanda pulling Daniel from the vehicle, her dress already on fire, her face set with determination that bordered on fierce. She looked like a warrior, like an angel, like something powerful and unstoppable. "You're famous," David said gently. "Everyone in Lagos is looking for the hero who saved our father. Social media has been going crazy trying to identify you." "Hey, my people, can we just pause for a second because I'm getting emotional just telling this story? If you're feeling what I'm feeling right now, if you believe that kindness always comes back around, then show some love and hit that like button. Comment below and tell me about a time when doing the right thing changed your life. And fam, if you're not subscribed yet, please subscribe because these last 2 episodes are going to absolutely wreck you in the best way possible."